Okay, hello everybody.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
How you doing? How you doing? All right, we're here today live with Ripper. You guys know Ripper. He's been on the channel before. How you doing, Ripper?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, absolute pleasure to have you here. So, okay, we're talking about a situation today over in Kansas that Ripper's been looking into and collecting information about, and he's been kind of creating some awareness around it. And I think at this point, I'll go ahead and let Ripper have the floor to go ahead and give you guys a little brief explanation of what we're dealing with here.
All right. Thanks for having me. The people that are here, thanks for being here. What's up, Amber Lee? About, I'll just say many months ago, I got a call from someone that asked me to look into a situation in Highland, Kansas. They told me a couple of stories of things like they said one of the student athletes ran out of gas in front of a church. They went inside the church to get help. They were inside the church for like no more than 30 minutes. When they came out of the church, their car was gone. It had been towed. But someone inside the church called maybe the local police department. That's my guess.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent a tow truck out there to tow the car. In another instance, there was a snowstorm. And the player ran out of gas right across the street from their house. But it wasn't right across the street. It was one house down from their house. So basically just one house short, but they weren't in the middle of the road. They were on the right side of the road, like next to the road. Like, you know, their tires weren't in the grass or whatever, but it was a snowstorm. They just ran out of gas right there. They left a note on their car. I think this was around midnight. They left a note on their car saying, well, they called an assistant coach to get help. The coach came over. It's a small little town. There wasn't any convenience stores open, so they couldn't get gas. And she left a note on her car saying, I'll get my car in the morning. Now, she lives right across the street, and it's a small town. And from what people tell me, everybody knows where everybody lives, kind of thing around the campus. And apparently around 2 or 3 a.m. during this big snowstorm, her car was towed. And each of these people, they had to pay like $100 to go get their car, you know. But
right.
So those things happened, and that's where I got, actually, I was told about those a little bit. It was actually before. I was told that last winter with the snowstorm car. And I just thought, well, you know, no big deal. But then I got the call many months ago, and they started telling me about the car in front of the church, and then quite a few other things. And I thought, wow, that's really bad that all of these student athletes would be treated this way.
Yeah.
And then we'll get to some other stuff later, but there was just multiple stories of student athletes being treated pretty bad. That's how it started. And then in September, I have to look around I'm going to look up a date real quick so I can get the actual date of when this one thing happened. Okay. And if you want to talk about my little video real quick or something, if you want to talk about something, go ahead, and I'm going to look up this date. And then
right. So what Johnny's kind of talking about is how he got into looking into this here, what's going on at Highland Community College in Kansas. And it appears that the basketball program, it would seem, in particular, is having some issues with the athletic director, the new athletic director, who's been there now. It's his first year, and I don't know. There's some interesting little stats that they're going to pop out of this conversation. If you guys watched Ripper did a video just the other day, and he was actually there on campus, basically reporting. And so there's just some interesting things going on over there, where certain students are being held to one standard and certain other students are being held to a different standard. It would seem that that's very clearly happening. And so, that's what Ripper's taking a look into here. Did you find your date?
Yeah, I did. And yeah, it started with the football program first. Although the girl, that was a female basketball player, but the car that was in front of the church, that was one of the football players. And then on August 24th, I'll tell you what happened on August 24th. Now, I wasn't contacted until sometime in September regarding a lot of this football stuff. But on August 24th, the starting quarterback for Highland Community College, Kansas law firm.
That's Travis there.
Okay, all right, excellent. So August 24th, the starting quarterback, they played, I think it was they played Fort Scott Community College, and they won. They came back, and I've talked to at least two witnesses on this, and I talked to the quarterback himself. They got back. He came back with his girlfriend and another player from the game from Fort Scott, Kansas. When they got back, his girlfriend dropped him off at the Casey's General Store, like in the parking lot, because the store is closed. Anyway, she dropped him off there, and they were going to walk back to campus to their dorm. Now, I didn't ask him why she dropped him off there, why they wanted to be off campus to walk back. I don't know if they just wanted to smoke something, or I don't know. I didn't ask him because
college kids do that. So that wouldn't be surprising.
They do now. However, in the state of Kansas, it's illegal. So, and it's against the rules there at the school. So
it's been against the law. It's been against the rules at a lot of colleges in a lot of states for a long time, and it hasn't stopped it. So,
but that's right. It happened. So they stopped. They're walking back. As they are walking back, they notice. His girlfriend was driving the car. She goes down the road, turns around, starts coming back. Now, they didn't see her turn around and come back, but at some point they notice that she gets pulled over, and she's on the opposite side of the street. She's pulled over. The lights are on. This is, I think he said, around 2 a.m. So he's walking down, and he's on the right side of the street going west. The car is on the other side of the street. The car would be on the south side of the street. He sees them. They walk up. They're still on the other side, and he yells, like when he gets across the street from the stop, he yells over. He said, "Hey, what's going on over there?" And his girlfriend's driving the car. Now, her girlfriend, and also, I guess one of the other witnesses there, heard the officer that pulled them over. When he walked up to the car, to the driver's side, he said, and the quarterback's last name is Cambridge, but he said, "Oh, I thought you were Mr. Cambridge." That's what he said when he walked up to the car. Now, normally, like when I get pulled over, they'll say driver's license, not like, "Oh, I thought you were someone else." So she said, and she was pregnant at the time too, so he was kind of concerned, he said, but he said, "Oh, I thought you were Mr. Cambridge." And about that time, the quarterback, yells across the street, said, "Hey, what's going on over there?" And the officer said something to the effect of, "Be quiet or shut up." And he said, "That's my girlfriend. I need to make sure she's okay." Now, he's still on the other side of the street. And then he said that the officer walked over towards him across the street, walked over towards him and told him to shut up, or he's going to arrest him for interfering with a stop. And the quarterback said, "Go ahead and arrest me." Well, he did. He put handcuffs. So he put his hands behind his back, put his hands behind his back. And then this is where I have multiple people saying that once he got him handcuffed and his hands behind his back, he started trying to throw him down on the ground face first. So he would land face first, but he couldn't throw him down. But they said he was trying to throw him down, but he couldn't get him down. So he got a ticket for interfering with the traffic stop. He served 7 days in jail for interfering with a traffic stop. When he got out, they had a football game that following Saturday, but he didn't get out in time to play in that game, so he missed that game.
Right.
And I think it was the following week, he went to the courthouse there in town to, pay his fine or, get everything, like see if he had a court date. He had some kind of court date. So he went there and they told him that he had to serve another weekend in jail. So, but they told him that he could pick the weekend. So he picked a weekend that they had a bye. Now, I could look it up, but it's really not important. So he ended up picking the week that they had a bye. He goes and he spends that weekend in jail. And then after that, he said he had a fine of like $600 to $700. He went to go pay his fine. And I'm going to tell you exactly what he told me. He went to pay his fine, and the lady at the counter at the courthouse told him, your charges have been dropped due to racial profiling. That's what he told me, because I said, whoa, what? I said, she said, what? He said, she told me that the charges have been dropped due to racial profiling. Now, I didn't go pull up the court records or anything like that. I was just like, And I asked him if he had to pay the fine. He said, no, I didn't have to pay the fine. I asked him if he had gotten an attorney, and he said, yeah, I ended up, my family, scraped together $2,500 to get him an attorney. So then, it's dropped. But I've heard a lot of stories, and I talked to a lot of people. That's kind of the MO, is that these kids will get charged with something, and then they go pay a fine or they pay court fees, and either the charges get dropped or there's like some kind of deferment so it doesn't stay on their records.
Right.
And there's a trend.
Deferred entry judgment. Right.
Yes. And there's a lot of them apparently. And I guess it's a good way to make revenue for the city. Right. But this story with this guy is not over yet. So he's already missed one game. He's the starting quarterback.
Right. And scheduled his weekend during the bye week so he wouldn't miss any more football. Right. Got it.
Right. And then they're doing really good. They're ranked in the top 20 in the country. They beat the number 1 team in the country, which is Hutchinson, Kansas. And then I think it's the game after that they lose. And after the game, he says to the refs after the game, as he's leaving, he says, you all effing suck. That's what he says to the refs. The refs blow it off. They don't write it up. They don't do anything about it. Well, the next day, and this is what I'm told by two different people tell me this story, that sometime during the next day, the athletic director, this is his first year there, he ends up getting a hold of the head of officiating and tells them to write up a report on their quarterback. Now, if you're the athletic director at the school, you should be there to help your students.
Your program, right?
Right. But he calls, and
especially football, because it's such a cash cow for all colleges. You want to be competitive. Anyway.
Yeah. It's their big money maker at the school.
Right.
Sports. But he gets them to write up this report, and what the head of officiating said to the head coach at that time, he called the head coach the Monday morning after that.
Yeah.
But he told the head coach, we didn't want to write the report, but your athletic director was adamant about it. So, they didn't want to do it. So once the report got written, it was turned in or sent to the athletic director. And then he turns it into the NJCAA, which is like the NCAA for junior
Right.
colleges.
Right.
So he sends that in. The NJCAA ends up suspending the kid for 2 games. So then after that, there's an email that is sent. Now, I haven't seen this email yet, but I don't doubt that it's not there, because I did do an open records request.
You don't doubt that it is there. Right.
I do not doubt that it's there, because my open records for emails were declined from the school. Like, why would you decline them?
Right.
If you don't have anything to hide. But there's a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, then an email was sent to the head coach that said, the NJCAA has suspended the player for 2 games, but we're going to kick him out of school. So he wasn't happy that he got a 2-game suspension. He wanted to kick the quarterback out of school completely.
Right.
The head coach went to the president of the college. It's her first year there also. And he fought to have his quarterback not be kicked out. And
right.
He won that little battle. The quarterback stayed, was able to finish the season. Now he's transferred out. He's not there right now.
Well, of course.
The year he left. But you have one person that has done a couple of things that has had this kid miss 30% of his games.
Yeah.
Now the quarterback is an African American kid. The story of the car at the church that got towed away, that was also an African American kid. The girl who got her car towed from across the street from her house, she was also an African American kid. So I'll put that out there, because I got a couple of other stories, and they're all going to start sounding the same as we go along here. Mm-hmm. So you have a quarterback that missed 3 games. And I'll just tell you another little story while we're on this.
Well, the fact that he transferred away because he was like, screw this, I'm not going to be able to, I can never be guaranteed I'm going to be able to get all my snaps at this college. So I'm just going to go find another one.
Well, he was a sophomore, and I mean, football season's over now. The semester's getting ready to start.
So he was transferring to a regular college anyway? Or he was a state or a university?
Yeah, he got signed at a 4-year school.
Right.
But, if he hasn't graduated yet, he can go back for another semester, because, when you sign a letter of intent with college, so you get a scholarship, you get to go for the whole year. Now, if you graduate early, or, you graduate at the end of the first semester, then you can leave and go take classes at another school if you want, like a 4-year school. I don't think there'd be any reason to take classes at a 2-year school after you graduated. But I think after you graduate, I don't think your scholarship would be valid anymore anyway.
Right.
Anyway, so I'll just tell you, there's another story with the same officer that pulled a car over that just happened to be some African-American kids. And he said they smelled like weed, so that gave him probable cause to search the car. Well, they didn't find anything. They searched the car. They didn't find anything. But this officer, which is the same officer as the first story, then goes to the athletic director of this school and tattletales, basically says,
they smelled like weed.
These kids smelled like weed. Well, the athletic director then goes to the head football coach and tells the head football coach that he needs to suspend these players because they smelled like weed.
Right.
Now, I don't know about there, but I know where I'm at, smelling like weed is not a crime.
Well, right.
I mean,
you gotta be able to prove something. Right.
Right. But the head football coach said that I'm not going to suspend my players because you say that someone told you they smell like weed. And then I guess there was some words that were not very kind that were said to the coach, and I guess kind of a threatening manner regarding his job, something to that effect. After that,
right.
So, now you have an athletic director that's trying to get rid of some players on the team. You have a starting quarterback, and then you have this incident. And then when we talk about suspensions, let's talk about the number of suspensions. This coach started there in, I think he was there 6 years, 6 or 7 years. 2011, I think, is when he got hired. So I think 2012 was probably his first football season, maybe, or it could have been 11. But anyway, 6, it could be 5, 6, 7 years, somewhere around in there. But this year, he had more suspensions this year than he has had total combined for his whole career there. This year alone, he had more suspensions than,
which is an awfully, suspicious uptake. Yeah.
It is. And he said they were all, he was told to suspend these players. They weren't like one suspension. Let me think. What was the one suspension for? I'll remember here in a second. But one of them was, there was one of the players was actually kicked out of school because he talked back to a campus security guy.
Right.
Not suspended, but kicked out of school. And let me tell you what happened with that. And let me explain how it's a small town. From what I understand, there's 2 police officers in the town. The school has 4 campus security guards. And I think one of them works part-time. Another one works, I think, full-time. And then the other 2 are also the local police officers.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody wants to do some research, what someone told me should be done, and this is someone that knows something. I'll just say that they have what they call a DAR, a DAR, a daily activity report for campus security. He said go and request the DARs, and then go and get the timesheets from the city for the local police department. And he said, I think you'll be surprised at what you find. So I said, are they double billing? Like, are they getting paid from the school and the city at the same time? And he just said, you just need to go look for yourself. He said, you just need to go look for yourself.
Right.
But he did tell me that he said there were cases where one of these guys was working as campus security. They would get a call, like a police call, like a real police call, and they would leave and go take care of the police call, and then maybe come back an hour or 2 hours later. So he said if they left the school and they didn't clock out, then they would have been paid for their time when they were running their...
Actually working somewhere else, right?
Right. And if that was the case and they reported that time on their city timesheet or whatever the case may be, then they would have been paid by the city and also by the college. So they would have been getting paid twice by the Kansas taxpayers. And I don't think you can do that.
Right.
And while we're on that subject, let me tell you something. I mean, this goes on and on and on, but let me tell you something else. All right, you have, and don't let me forget to tell you about the cafeteria and the guy that got expelled, kicked out of school for talking back to the guy. Don't let me forget that. But
I'm already planning to remind you about the party with all the kids that did actually get busted in trouble that nothing happened to. So, but okay, guy in the cafeteria, all right. There you
go. Do we need to take a commercial break? Is that what you're telling me?
Nope. I'm just trying to keep. I want to make sure I don't forget either one of them. So.
And I just I just found out this thing I'm about to tell you just yesterday. So I haven't told anyone about this except just a couple of people. All right, so you have these police officers that also work as campus security people, and these student athletes would get busted with like alcohol or marijuana in their room or something. Yeah, you need to get Dr. Pepper as your sponsor. But what would happen is a police officer is working as campus security, and well, I'm going to tell you how they probably bust people, because I was there when something happened and it was really bizarre. But they go in and they're working as campus security, and let's say they find, let's just say, let me do a visual for everybody here. Let's just say they find like something like this here in someone's room. So they find something like that. So what they do is they write them a ticket from the school. And then they take their hat off and they put their policeman hat on, and then they write them a ticket from the city as if they're a police officer. So they ticket them from the school and then also from the city.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Can you beat both? And I guess I know the school. I know if it's like a regular campus security guard, they can call the police and say, "Hey, someone's broken the law here," and the police come. But if you're working as campus security, can you just turn around and then write a ticket as a police officer?
Well, I know here, even our junior colleges here are actual police departments that actually do it. So when they write a ticket, it's like the city.
It's not the college.
Right.
And from what I'm told, and I haven't checked these numbers yet, but what I was told, and actually, you know what? I do have a, give me a second, because I do have a ticket here that someone sent me a picture of.
Yeah.
And let me see how much it was for. This one, it's not, actually, this one's not for, it's not for marijuana though. This one's for, this is careless driving, obstruction, and disorderly conduct. But it's $423.50. So the careless driving is probably, they said he crossed the yellow line, you know, like the middle line. They crossed the line.
Right.
And then they probably complained and said, "No, I didn't do that. This is wrong," and whatever. And then they wrote him up for disorderly conduct, and then they probably tried to arrest him, or who knows what. But careless driving, could be, like I said, crossing the line. That gives them a reason to pull him over. And the guy that sent me that is a football player, and of course, he's African American. It's Highland, Kansas. It's Highland, Kansas, and it's
Community College.
Yeah, Highland Community College is the school. And if you look up, this is kind of odd, but if you look up George Carver Washington, I think that's the name, George Carver Washington.
Yeah.
He was a scientist back in the 1800s, like the late 1800s. He did a lot with like flowers and other things, but he was able to make milk from peanuts. And anyway, he enrolled at Highland. Back then it was called like Highland State College or something to that effect. It's the name place, or same place, but he enrolled there. He got accepted. And then when he showed up there, they turned him away because he was black. And you can find it online. And yes, that's correct.
Back in the 1800s, that's not exactly shocking.
No, it's not. But in 2020,
it's a little more shocking in 2020.
Because we're gonna get to some stuff that really sounds just like that from some of the comments. If you read some of the comments on my video, there's a lady that says her son just got back there on Saturday, and he was basically forced to leave. And I was told that I was given 3 names of people that were going to be targeted like this. Now, I didn't, and she called me actually and talked to me, but I didn't ask her what his name was. I just didn't think it was that important. I just told her to, tell him to call me. But I assume it's one of the three that I was told would be not returning to campus because they're bad people. And these are three people that just happen to have dreads or wicks, which is like a South Florida hairstyle. But anyway, let me get back to the cafeteria thing.
Right.
And I think I finished my. There's so many stories that it's just endless. But what I've been told by multiple people is that these officers sit in the school cafeteria, and like every day at lunch they get to eat for free in the cafeteria. The officers do, and they just sit in there and profile people, and that's what they tell me. They're like, sometimes they'll have pictures of the players and they'll just look for them, and if it's someone that has like if someone had a court date and they missed it or they couldn't pay their fine, like if they couldn't pay their fine, they get a warrant put out for them, and these officers would go in the cafeteria and wait till they see these guys, and once they see them after they left the cafeteria, they would arrest them. I guess you can do that, but when you're at college, it should be a safe place for kids. But Travis, the coach has resigned, just so you know about the coach, and that's kind of how I started into this whole thing when I started getting these phone calls about the quarterback and some other stuff. But the coach resigned because he just was not going to, he just couldn't deal with it. But, it's pretty stressful. He has a wife and kids, and it was.
Why not look for a program where he's not going to be fighting against his own school? Yeah.
Right. And he was fine. I mean, everything was going good, but this year they have a new president and a new athletic director.
Right.
And apparently when they arrived, things started changing drastically.
Yeah.
But in the cafeteria, let me give you another story about the cafeteria. They had a housing director that was fired. When the housing director left, he either wiped all of the data that he had or he took it with him. But whatever the case, the college said that they didn't have all the names and addresses of all the students that lived on campus. I'm reading the comments on and the last one there. I wondered that too. I'm talking about Arlene's comment there, but I didn't research that area or anything, but I just thought, man, I don't know, but it gets worse. I wish it didn't, but it does. So anyway, apparently the school didn't have the names and the addresses of the students who lived on campus. Now, if I have a business or I'm running a school or whatever, I'm going to go to my human resources department or my housing administrator or whoever and say, hey, send out an email, because they can send emails to the whole school or the student body, but send out an email and have the kids come by the administration office and tell us where they live. But what they do instead is they use these officers and they set up a book in the cafeteria, and when these students go in the cafeteria to eat, they have to sign their name and address in this book. Now, if you've been getting pulled over because you crossed a yellow line, but maybe you didn't cross a yellow line, or your car got towed, or you're being treated all these ways, then probably the last person you want to give your address to is the person that's doing these things to you. So one of these players, he goes in and apparently the story is he signed the book, but the officer didn't see him sign it. And the kid's waiting in line. There's food, and the officer says, hey, did you sign this? And under his breath, he said, yeah, I signed it. Well, officer didn't hear him. He asked him again. He says, hey, have you signed it? You need to sign this book. The guy ignores him. He goes and eats and he leaves, and supposedly he's followed out the door. And when he's outside, the officer says, hey, you need to sign this book. And the kid, which is a football player, and of course he's African American, he says, I don't F with security, and just walks off. Well, a couple of days later, he's kicked out of school for that. Not suspended, reprimanded. He's like kicked out of school. And some of these kids, this is like they're the first one in their family to go to college. Like this is like a big deal. And then all of a sudden, because they don't want to give their name and address to a police officer, and if you haven't committed a crime in the state of Kansas, you don't have to give your name or whatever to anybody. And I don't know if it was explained to the students that, hey, that the I would love to take that one, but I'm not. Hopefully they'll call back because they have a lot of information regarding this stuff. But I don't know the whole scenario as to if all the students knew what was going on. But me myself being a white person, if I walked in someplace and someone's asking me for my name and address, I'm like, I haven't committed a crime, and this isn't Nazi Germany. I'm not. No, but so he was kicked
That's interesting, and his name is actually on that list, right?
No. This was earlier. This was during the football season. Yeah. No, the people that were on the list, they made it through the first semester.
No, I meant the guy that you were talking about that actually signed it, but
yeah, I never looked at the list or anything. I mean, because I was only up there for 4 or 5 days, and I just didn't have enough time to, I didn't open records request on some stuff, but they just declined almost everything I did except for the name of the security officer. But I'm told by 2 different people that he did sign the book, but the officer didn't witness him sign it.
Right.
And one of the guys said, yeah, I mean, he said the guy was just harassing him and just, kept bothering. And he said the kid was just like ignoring him. And then finally he said the kid just got upset, it was like, dude, I don't F with security, and walked off, I mean,
well, obviously he's being a young, obviously you're dealing with teenage kids, college kids. I mean, so obviously they're going to be surly. They're going to be, whatever. I mean, they're going to be young kids and do what young kids do. So that's not really all that, shocking to me, but I don't know. These overzealous security guards, or glorified security guards, it would seem, I don't know, it's weird, are certainly suspicious. But in order of getting through this a little quicker so we don't have to make you miss any more calls, I definitely want you to tell everybody about what happened there with a house party that involved some of the teams on campus who were, well, let's to use the athletic director's terms, culturally acceptable for Highland Community College.
Okay. All right. So since Erekose brought that up, one of the comments that the athletic director made to one of the coaches, this was months back, was that you need to, well, let me just tell you first that town is 85% white. The surrounding area is 85% or higher. There is a town in the area that is 96% white. The state of Kansas is 85% white, and you can look that up.
Or Caucasian.
Or Caucasian, yeah, if we want to do that. But what he said to one of the coaches was, you need to recruit players that the culture of the community can relate to. And the coach responded with, "What exactly do you mean by that?" And the response from the athletic director was, "You know exactly what I mean by that."
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's pretty clear what that means, but maybe it's not that clear to everybody. But to me, I know exactly what he means. But so there was a party, like a house party. I don't know if it was on campus or off campus because they have their dorms are kind of like apartments that are on campus. And I got to tell you about the story about the campus guy that just went in today, Thursday, I think Wednesday night, into a girl's apartment. She was in the shower, and these girls told him, "Don't let me just. I'll tell you the details on the story." But he
Mm-hmm.
was told she was in the shower, and he went into her apartment anyway. But I'll tell you the
Right.
details of
Yeah,
that.
we'll
Just
get to
don't let
that
me
in a
forget.
minute. Okay.
But there was a house party. It got busted by the local police department, and apparently it was the baseball team and I guess the volleyball team, because in my video I said softball team, but someone said the softball team wasn't there. Maybe the softball team wasn't there. I don't really care because most of the baseball team and most of the volleyball team is Caucasian.
Right.
And about 20, like 22, 23, 20 some people got tickets at that party. Now, there were African Americans there too that got tickets for minor in possession.
Mm-hmm.
So there was 20 some tickets handed out to, a lot of people, but I know there were at least 2 African Americans at the party. But the bulk was the baseball team and the volleyball team. But they got tickets during that same time. There were football players being suspended for like minor little things. Hopefully I can remember before we go what some of the minor, but I know one football player got kicked out of school for taking his cell phone out of class, like out in class. He took his cell phone out. He got kicked out of school for that. But anyway, there were some other players that got suspended for, oh yeah, here it is. One player got suspended because he missed a meeting with his school counselor. That's what it was. He missed a meeting with his school counselor and got suspended. And then you have all these people that got busted at this house party that got tickets from law enforcement. They didn't get reprimanded at all. And they were athletes also, but they didn't get reprimanded by the school at all. They didn't get suspended or anything like that.
Right.
But I think, in my opinion, it's because they were mostly Caucasian kids. And if they would have done one, they would have had to do them all. But it didn't happen.
And the baseball program, obviously, and the volleyball program would be probably the darling programs of the new athletic director.
Those are kids that the local community could probably relate to,
if you go along with his interpretation of the way things are there, I guess. Yeah.
Right.
But clearly he has a slanted view of the world.
There's something definitely wrong. But let me tell you, when I was up there, I just got back today, but I was up there because things are getting really crazy up there right now. So I wanted to go up there and go around the community and start asking people a lot of questions. And I did for 4 solid days. I talked to probably 10 to 12 hours a day on the phone for like 4 solid days to, I don't know how many people. I'm going to see if this guy is texting. Hold on. Let me see if this guy texted, because I had a question. Because here's something else that some of your people can get into. Yeah, Travis, there's 6 board of trustees. They have a school board. There's 6 members. But what I was told yesterday was that there's, each school that receives financial aid has a what they call a Cleary Report. It's CLERY. I don't think there's an A in there, but it's called a Cleary Report. And a Cleary Report has to be done by a school when a student is caught with alcohol, drugs, sexual abuse, any type of crime on campus or near campus has to be reported on this Cleary report.
Right.
Yes. And someone told me, he said, you need to check into the Cleary report. He said, if you check into the Cleary report and then you compare it with other community colleges like Coffeyville, Kansas, Independence Community College, he said, if you check it against those schools, he goes, you will see there is a big problem at Highland Community College. He said on the last one that was submitted, he said that the report showed that there were 40 incidents that the school reported, and it matched the 40 incidents that like the police department reported. But supposedly there was over 100 incidents during that year, but only 40 of them were reported. And he said not all of them get reported to the police department because there's some things, like you have discretion on. So some things aren't reported to the police department. But he said, you normally don't find an equal amount of campus-related issues with the local police department. He said, but the last one was, he said it was 40 for the school and 40 for the police department. He said, but it should have been over 100. I think he said over, and I'll have to go back and look at my notes, but he said over 115 that it should be. He said at least over 115. I'm not going to tell you why he would give me the number or how he had the number. Hold on, let me look to see if what this person here sent me. It's Clery is what it is, Cleary Report. But and I was saying, I went around and talked to, like, I knocked on people's doors while I was up there, like not on campus, but off campus. And I'm going to tell you, the people in the community that I talked to, they're super nice. And they told me stories. Like one lady told me a story that, she said, my house was broken into twice. And she goes, I'm going to tell you right now, when they caught him, it was these white kids that broke into my house, not athletes or whatever. And, she said, we go to the games, we support them. Said, sometimes these football players come over. She lives right across the street from the school. She said, sometimes they will come over and, if I'm like bringing stuff in, they'll come over and carry stuff for me. And then I talked to some people that lived further away from the school, and, they're like, things need to change here. So, the community is really great. So it's, I don't think it's the community, because everyone that I talked to, it's, well, I can say it wasn't like
it sounds like the athletic director is, I guess, counting on there's going to be maybe enough people in the community like him that it won't get raised, that the issue just won't get raised to a significant level to, I think he feels like he'll get away with it and fly under the radar.
Well, maybe so, but I think now people in the community have figured it out. And I think once a lot of this stuff comes out, I don't think they're going to stand for it. Now, the board has called, and Travis, like if they don't report something, like it's $35,000 like per incident that they have. So it's really serious. But let me see how much time do you have before we need to go? Because there's one thing I want to try to so people can kind of understand what's actually going on here. But there's just so many stories. But I will just say the president.
I would say we could also do a second video.
Yeah, we could.
And I'm not putting a time limit on you, but I wanted to go ahead and maybe try to keep it punchy enough so people could get the gist is all I was looking to.
Right. Yeah. And
we can go another 10, 20 minutes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I got some things I have to do also.
Yeah, I don't
But
want you to miss any more calls either. So I mean,
yeah, because
yeah.
some of these people, they'll only talk to you one time,
Right.
and then because some people told me, like one guy said, man, he said, I got family that live in that town, and I'm scared. I'm scared to say anything. He said, no, I'm not there anymore, but he said I have family there, and I just don't. He said
Right.
I'm just scared to talk, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Um, but they do have, the school board has called an executive meeting tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Now
That's Central Time, folks, because we're
that's
going to be
Central
asking you
Time.
to do something here. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, the Twitter for, it's HCC Scotties, because they're the Highland Community College Scotties. So it's SCOTT, two
The
T's. But
Scotties, really? Really?
yeah, yep.
I
So
love it.
it's
If you
at
seen what
H.
I've been doing over on my other channel, you'd understand why I find that so amusing. But anyways.
So their Twitter is at HCC Scotties. That's their athletics Twitter, and then they have a student life one also. But
Okay.
the board has an executive meeting for tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Time, and of course, executive means behind closed doors. So they will, and it's executive meeting regarding personnel, and nobody knows what they're going to talk about. But I went and got the record. I did my records request. I think it was on Tuesday. I went there to the HR department and I requested all the emails from the president, from the athletic director. And what I did them all from like September 10th to current day. And also I requested all of the phone records because their phones are paid for by the school. So I requested all of their phone records, all their phone text messages, the name of the campus security people,
Mm-hmm.
the November board meeting notes. And the only thing they gave me were the campus security names, the November board meeting notes. But they
Okay.
declined my phone records request and my
Emails. Right.
emails. Yeah. Now, the reason I wanted the emails, and I just didn't have time to play the open records game, but
Right.
eventually they have to give them up because it's a state school. So eventually,
Sure.
you can get access to it because they're being paid for by the public.
Sure.
But
If any of the Redditors out there who have been getting really good at making the FOIA requests want to try to help Ripper here get his hands on some of that stuff, feel free.
yeah, now in Kansas, at colleges, it's called the like the Sunshine State Law, or it's a they. I'll look it up, but they have it. If you look up Kansas Open Records, it'll tell you what it is. But it's kind of like a FOIA. It's kind of like that, but they
Right.
call it a different name without putting my glasses on. But it's like the Sunshine Law or whatever. But
Right.
but it's easy to find. But the president, it's her first year there. It's her first year as a president also, and the athletic director, it's his first time as an athletic director. Before, he was a trainer and a teacher, but they went to school there in like 97 and 98. So there was, yes, the Sunshine Law. Thank you. Travis is, of course, Erekose has already told me Travis is a beast. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not
He's
surprised.
our attorney there in Texas.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised that he's just like boom, boom, boom on stuff.
Yeah.
But there's one.
He followed the West Memphis 3 very closely when it was going on. So
yeah, and that was a crazy thing too. But
yeah.
I think this is going to be real crazy when everything comes out. But there's one. Well, I'm not going to say that part yet. But here's what I'll say is that the president and the athletic director both went to school there in 97 and 98.
Okay.
The president was hired there first, like last year or whatever. And then they had a committee to find an athletic director. And during this search, all of a sudden, an athletic director was hired, but like the president skipped over talking to the committee, and they end up hiring this guy.
Oh,
so
no SOP.
That was kind of weird because he wasn't qualified, for one, because he was a trainer and a teacher before. But there's some stuff about them that I have not confirmed yet. I've just heard, so I've only heard it from one person, so I'm not going to say anything yet.
Okay.
But
I get what you're maybe alluding to. All right.
There is
probably better to hold that close to the vest until you have something.
There's past history with those two. We know because they went to school there.
Right.
Well, they've also hired a new football coach now. And the football coach just happens to be another person that was there in 97 and 98. And if you look up the football coaches, like past records and all that stuff, you just wonder, how do you get a head coaching job at a college that, this college right now, they have 3 NFL players. They have 3 players that play in the NFL that went to this school. They've had a really good football program. They might have 4, but I know they have 3 for sure. They might have 4. Like one guy plays for the Patriots. And I've talked to news people, but there's so much information that, like, when you talk to some of these news people, I think I gave them too much information. And but there is a reporter that has been working on this for at least a week, and he's just trying to get all the stuff together, so when he does
dotting
this
his
story,
I's and crossing his T's.
Yes, and it's going to be good when he gets it. But anyway, so they got this new football coach, and after he was hired, then I thought, well, now I know what's going on. Is they're bringing in people that someone well, I'm not going to say yet, because I really need the phone records or the emails for this last part. But I think I know what's going on, but I don't want to say unless I know for sure. Like if someone, like I had someone that called me Friday night and told me some pretty crazy stuff that someone had said, and they said they had video of it. But until they send me that video, I'm not going to, report on that, because it was so bad that I just like. But
let's not be irresponsible in our reporting.
No, because we're talking about real people here, and I don't want the guy from Atlanta, Richard Jewell. I don't want to say that somebody did something if they didn't, because me, if someone gets charged with a crime and they didn't commit it, that's really bad. Yeah. And if someone didn't say something, and someone's saying, well, this guy said that don't recruit any more players with dreads or twist.
Sure.
I mean, if they didn't really say it, then I'm not going to report. But
I agree. I think all of these statements should be vetted and investigated, and this should all be verified and done properly.
That's right.
It'll be very interesting to see if there's an interest for it to be done properly. I think that's really the next step, is waiting to see if properly comes along.
Right. Is the school board going to really tell them to investigate into this matter? Because some of the things that I heard, I was like, okay, so who was told that? Okay, then I need to go talk to them.
Right.
And then I would talk to them, and they would tell me, yeah, this is what happened, and this is what happened. I'm like, okay, because, so-and-so told me that, so I just wanted to confirm it from you. And they're like, yeah, that's what happened. Like, for instance, I was told that, okay. All right. I see on that, Travis. When I was told about the no more dreads or twist comment from the athletic director. When I was told about that, they followed it up with, they named 3 of these players.
Mm-hmm.
They said, he said this and this, and then he said, player A, player B, player C, we're not bringing them back next semester. They're not going to be on campus next semester. They're bad people.
Right.
All right, so I knew these 3 names. I looked up their pictures. They all have dreads or wicks.
Right.
Well, on Saturday afternoon, I get a call from someone, and they're like, "Hey, player number 2 needs you to call him, or he needs to call you because he's trying to come back to school, and they're not going to let him here. They're not letting him come back."
Yeah.
And I just all of a sudden I was like, all right, I knew that was going to happen because someone told me, 3 or 4 days ago that he was one on the list that wasn't going to be able to come back.
Right.
And then I got a call from a mother in I'm not going to say where she was from, but she called and is telling me the same story. This was 4 or 5 hours after that initial one, but she called and said her kid's there. They're telling him he has to pay an extra $300. Like, I think school starts, they get back on either tomorrow or Tuesday or something. They're getting ready to start school back up. But so, like, one of these kids got there over the weekend. He showed up a couple days early. Anyway, so he was told he's going to pay like an extra $250 or $300 to get in his dorm room a couple days early, but he can't eat in the cafeteria. And his mom said the guy got all up in his face and told him, you're not going to be able to eat in the cafeteria. You might as well leave, like all this crazy stuff. But she ended up telling him, go, just come back home. So the last I heard, he was in Kansas City getting on a bus, going back home.
Yeah.
And these are players that have a scholarship that signed a letter of intent. So they have the right to be there for the first and second semester.
Yeah.
But they're, and I understand he came back a couple of days early, but these are young kids that they've already played the season of football. And I mean, really, if you let them into the dorm a couple days early, there's already students back. Like the basketball teams are back because they had a game, or they're supposed to have a game last Saturday, but
Mm-hmm.
both basketball teams are back. The track and field team, they're already back because they were supposed to have a track meet, an indoor meet Saturday. So there's already kids there. The cafeteria is already open.
Yeah.
So there's already kids on campus. So, I'm like,
Yeah, that's awfully suspicious.
yeah, but it's not to me because, I already knew 3 for sure
Right,
that
I know what
this
you
would
mean.
probably
Right.
happen
Yeah.
to, and it's really sad that this could happen. And I'll say, Travis, someone gave me the number for the Department of Justice for these students, because there's a number that they can call for education discrimination. So of course I've been given that number I've been called by students. I've been called by past students that said they were there in the 90s and they had problems with local law enforcement. Like, one guy told me that there was a party somewhere like in a neighborhood and it got busted and all these people took off running from the party. But he said he was sitting like at the baseball field in the dugout. Like, he wasn't drinking, no nothing. He wasn't part of the party. And, all these people, like, someone came running by and said the party was busted, or whatever. But he said he wasn't part of it. But he said, next thing I know, police are pulling up and they're putting handcuffs on me and I'm sitting in the back of a car. He goes, I wasn't doing anything but just sitting out enjoying the evening in the dugout. He said, I hadn't drank, no nothing. He said, I sat back there for I don't know how long. Then finally they released me. But I mean, this was in the 90s, but he had seen the video and, he said, I just had to call to tell you because, something happened to me when I was there in the 90s. And then, I've had all kinds of people call, lots of stories. Let me read this. That's a good question about the recording because, because I do have some recordings of I do have some recordings of some school administrators talking about something that they should not be talking about. And probably in the next video I do, I think I'm going to play some clips of some of these recordings that I have.
Right.
But I'll tell you that there's and this is what made me really jump, like hurry up and do this now. But there's a women's basketball program there that for like the last 5, 6, 7 years, they've been like one of the top teams in the country. I think they've gone to the national championship tournament twice. One year they finished third. I think another year they finished seventh or something to that effect. But they also play in a conference where last year, 3 of the top 5 teams in the country was in that conference. And then out of the top 10 in the country, like 4 or 5 teams out of that conference were in the top 10. So it's a really tough conference. But
very competitive team, right?
Yes, it is. But on December 20th, the women's basketball program, the coaches were suspended with pay for academic dishonesty. That's what was announced in the beginning, that the women's basketball program was suspended. Yeah, the coaches were suspended with pay for academic dishonesty, and like they can't talk to anybody. When you get suspended like that and the school's doing an investigation, you can't say anything. But let me tell you what I think prompted this. The women's basketball coach, right? We have the football coach that resigned. And I don't blame him. But his last game I think it was a home game, but his last game, after the game, the women's basketball coach went down on the field and congratulated the guy and talked to him, and they were friends. And from what I understand, this guy's been there 7 years or whatever it was, but he had a lot of friends at the school. But after this game, like the women's basketball coach and I think one other person from like the college came down and talked to him. Nobody else would have anything to do with him. Well, then after a women's basketball game, in a post-game interview, the women's basketball coach, this was after the football coach resigned, the women's basketball coach started talking about the former football coach and how good of a coach he was and how he was really good with the players and how he had helped a lot of these kids. I mean, he really praised this football coach. Well, it wasn't much longer after that, maybe a couple of weeks or something like that, the women's basketball coach gets suspended for this academic dishonesty. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, I need to ramp up my thing, because I knew about the football stuff and the coach and all there was a lot of things with the coach that I haven't mentioned. Like, for instance, with 5 weeks to go in the season, the president of the college told the football coach that his contract wasn't going to be renewed. When I looked through all the board meeting notes and all that stuff, I never saw anything that said we're going to discuss this coach's contract. There was nothing in there.
Right.
I spoke to someone that they go to all the board meetings, and I said, when did they discuss this coach's contract? And that person said that was never discussed. She said and they're like, I go to all the board meetings, and that was never that. They said that didn't happen. Now, normally the board would approve if a coach is going to get fired or hired, things like that. But there was not, from what I can understand, there was never a meeting by the board And if they have like an executive meeting, they go back, they talk about whatever, but they come out and then they vote on it. But I'd ask, I said, like, if there was a vote on it, I want to know who voted for what. But there was never a vote either. But I think this president told this coach that so that he would lose hope and be like, well, I'm done here. Because matter of fact, after that, he did go tell some of his assistant coaches that he was done. He said, I'm done here. The board's already decided,
Right.
So I think that and I know the athletic director was giving this guy a hard time also,
Right.
but I think when the women's basketball coach showed support out in public and then on the post game show,
Yeah.
I think it really put a big target on him. So as I started investigating, actually, it's still under investigation. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk about what I have found out yet.
Correct. Well, I think we've covered quite enough ground here today as it is.
Yes.
Not to overload people, we obviously will come back with more stories with Ripper, and obviously he'll have things a little more fleshed out and vetted out by that point and everything. But what I wanted to make sure people hear while you guys are still here and watching is that what we want to do here is there's going to be a meeting tomorrow night, as Ripper was beginning to talk about. You can find the school on Twitter.
I'm going to look up thing. I'm going to look it up right now. Yeah. Okay. So I'll put it in the chat.
Put the link in there. Great. So what we want is hopefully, and remember, you're on my channel here. We want it to be done classy. We don't want the school to be able to say a bunch of unruly people were filling their inbox with hate. I don't want the school to be able to claim that. So
I don't either. Make sure
you do some well thought out comments on Twitter asking the college and this board to take an honest look at this, because from the outside here, without having done my own investigation, I see a lot of disturbing indicators. So I would like to, if we can, let's urge this board to take a good, honest look at this and make sure it's not a black eye for their college in case they're concerned about that sort of thing.
I agree totally that, their Twitter, probably people need to express their thoughts about it. And I will be emailing the board this evening with some stuff that I have found out that I haven't talked about yet. What I want to do is get their official comment. I will email the media person at the school asking for their official comment on these new things that I have found out just over the last couple of days. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to carbon copy the board on that also. Now, I did that on Wednesday as well. That's right. So, yeah, I went in on Monday or Tuesday and did the open records request. I think it was Tuesday. I just don't remember because everything just gets scrambled when you're doing all this stuff. But Monday or Tuesday, I went and did actually, I think it was Monday. But I did the open records request. I got it denied, but I had found out a lot of stuff. So what I did was I emailed and if you look in my video, like some parts of the video, you'll see like I'm looking around like I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah.
And I was, because I was like, the administration building was just like where the president is just like behind me and over just a little bit. But that was my second take in the video. I had done one before, but I had to redo it. I was holding the umbrella. It was sleeting, and all you could hear on it was like, you'd hear the sleet hitting. So I was nervous because I did do an open records request already. And on Wednesday, I sent an email to the media person there at Highland with a lot of disturbing stuff that I found. Let me give you an example. A player that was transferring from another college transferred there. The VP of Student Affairs used a school credit card to pay off his debt at this other school.
Oh.
Apparently you can't do it. It would make the kid ineligible. But the kid didn't do it. The VP of Student Affairs did it. But what happened is the president told the head coach that the player's been suspended by the NJCAA. That was another thing that I requested in the open records, was a copy of the letter from the NJCAA showing that the kid had been suspended, and they denied that to me also. Personally, I don't think he was suspended by the NJCAA. I don't think she turned it in to the NJCAA, because the vice president of student affairs that swiped the school credit card, he didn't get reprimanded at all. Now, if you're going to use a school credit card, and then that administrator is probably going to be reprimanded somehow, but he wasn't. But the kid was suspended the whole year. He didn't get to play one game of football because of what this school administrator did. So I put that in my email. I put in all these comments that that were reported to me that the athletic director had told me about, the issues with the starting quarterback, with the athletic director turning him in, some stuff that the president had said that is not illegal, but it's highly unprofessional, talking about people that aren't going to have their contracts renewed. So I put all these things in, and I copied the media person and the school board. So I know the media person probably turned it over to the president of the college. So when I was making that video, which would have been 2 days after I sent that because I knew that I knew some stuff that they did not want out there. So when I'm making the video, because I was just waiting for someone to come out. But I will tell you, I emailed the board Wednesday evening with the story that I was going to do in my video. And the next day they sent out a press release saying that they've called an executive meeting on Monday evening to discuss personnel. So, I don't know if the stuff that I emailed them about the story, asking for official comment from the school, had anything with them to do calling their meeting or not. I don't know. We'll see. But I did think it was odd that the following day they issued the statement about the executive board meeting. Now in my video, I do have the email addresses for the 6 board members, but if you're going to email them, I ask that you do it tomorrow and not today, because I'm going to email them this evening. And I know how Erekose's group is, that if certain people get a hold of this and they go with it in Twitter or whatever, then I don't think my email will ever be seen by the board. But people want to email them tomorrow, great. I'm not saying to do it, but don't do it this evening, because I need to get this new information that I have, because I think it's really important for the school board to see this information before they have their executive meeting. And I'm going to send them some clips of the athletic director talking about this investigation out in open public, which he should not be doing at all. I'll tell you, one of the things he said was, this is, and I'm not quoting, but it's similar to this. He says something to the effect that this is the worst case of cheating I've seen in my 25 years of experience. He's never been an athletic director.
He was a trainer
and a teacher. So I don't know where he got his 25 years from. I don't know what he's talking about there, but the fact it's like a
25 years since 98 yet. So
maybe, I don't know. I mean, he reminded me of Ken Kratz doing a press conference saying these are all the things that happened.
Sweated down the sweaty hallway.
You got sweat on the hood latch and all that stuff. But this is an investigation by a college, and they really shouldn't be saying anything about it, because they're saying these players cheated. I was just like, wow. But there's a lot of things that he said, and someone recorded it. So I'm going to share some of those clips with the school board. So I think it's real important that they hear that before they have their meeting. Anyway, I'm going to have to go back and read. Okay, so Travis Travis, man, you are a good guy with the wrench there.
Mm-hmm.
You are awesome.
Yeah,
But
he's good,
yeah,
especially
but
with the stuff that relates to law. He's
right. And I think Travis, to discuss the allegations, I think, I think that might be part of it. But, I don't know. I mean, who knows?
yeah,
You just never know with people. Like I thought that the governor of Wisconsin would give Brandon a ticket out. I mean, I thought that's a no-brainer. But did
yeah,
he? No. So
no,
you just never know with people.
no.
Let me look at this picture here that Travis has. Why do you want us to look at that?
All right. Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I think we've brought a lot of interesting things to your guys' attention here. I know those of you who feel strongly about the way that you feel Stephen Avery was discriminated against by law enforcement because he was poor. I think this should equally outrage you. If in
Yeah.
fact there is if it turns out there's merit to all these claims and that this thing is really that bad and it's going on, it should outrage you just as much as Stephen being discriminated for being poor, and his family, for that matter,
Right.
being discriminated against for being poor. So I think these things connect in that way. I obviously believe, that we live in the land of the free, the home of the brave. We live in the land of liberty. These aren't just words. These aren't just letters that got put together that don't mean anything. They're actually important. And the laws and the rights and those things are supposed to apply to everybody, not just the ones that people in power want it to apply to. So that's why things like this bother me, and I'm all for looking into this and really digging in and finding how much merit, and if there is merit, what can be done about it. So hopefully everybody will encourage that board tomorrow night. Get on Twitter, send the encouragement to really look at it. Don't just go through the motions on it. Really look at it, because I guarantee you Johnny here, Ripper here, is not going to let go. And so, yeah.
No, I'm
better
not.
to
And
get in front of it.
I will say something in my video. If you guys watch my video in the beginning, I put my phone number out there because of how tragic I think this is. And I know that there's people that they don't have anyone that can help them. If they try to go to the school, they're not going to get help from them. So I put my phone number out there because, I mean, these people really need help. And as I said in my video, I can't do it by myself. And in my video, I called out to Erekose and the wrecking crew, and because it is really important to me. And I will say that, I did put my phone number out, and some of the phone calls that I did get, were people trying to tell me stories, but they didn't really make sense. And then they were trying to fish for information to see what I knew. They were trying to get me to name a source or something, which I would never do. And I told the people I talked to, I was like, if you want me to use your name, if you want people to know that you want to fight against this kind of stuff, sure. But if you don't, I won't. And I haven't. But the quarterback, he said, man, use my name. And the guy that sent me the pictures of the tickets, he's like, if you want to use my name, use it. He said, I don't care. He said, I'm not scared of him anymore. I'm not there. But yeah, the people that called that were trying to fish for information, I was like, seriously, you think I'm going to tell you? I mean, I'm trying to get information. I'm not giving out information except for stuff that I've already put out there. But yeah, I'm not stopping until they make this right, and they make it right for the past people, like these people that were kicked out. It needs to be made right for them, So, but hey, man, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Everybody in the chat, thanks for being here. Travis, you point out that it's just all men and they're all Caucasian on the board. I didn't even notice that when I looked at the picture, but that is something to think about.
Yeah. Not a very diverse group, as Travis says. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for being here. I think we've hopefully we have inspired a lot of people to go ahead and encourage that board tomorrow night. Everybody, please do. Wrecking Crew, get on Twitter and let's make them realize they've got a little bit more than just their local community looking at what they're doing right now. And that might just be enough to get them to take it seriously. And I think they should. I think they should get in front of this instead of kind of taking an apathetic attitude and having it all come back and bite them later. Because, as I said, I don't think Johnny's going to be giving up on this. So they're better to get in front of it and address it, and be proactive. There you go. That's the word I was looking for.
Proactive.
So, all right, folks. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Always. So, all right, everybody. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.
And thumbs up.
Yep. Hit that like button on your way out, folks.
Right.